Hello and welcome to Friday Live. I am Amanda Farmer and we are going out to the Your Strata Property Facebook page and also out to LinkedIn. Happy 2022. Happy New Year, everybody. It's great to be here for our first Friday Live of the new year. How are you all doing? How have you started off your 2022? Interesting times for us, times that perhaps we didn't expect to be going through. I hope everybody is well as you can be. And I know that many of you will be isolating at this time. Some of you may be unwell. I want you to know that I'm thinking of you. This has definitely been a situation that has come close to home for me, with family members unwell and isolating, and Christmas plans up in the air, destroyed partially. And I know there will be many of you who are in that same situation. Incredibly hard to plan anything. Those of us with children who are on school holidays at the moment and having lots of great ideas of who we want to see and hang out with and what we want to do, and having those plans turn to mush often at the last minute, and to be a disappointment for our little ones. I know it's tricky. So I am right there with you and doing our best to stay safe, stay well, and to look after those who need our special help and attention at this point in time. But that's why I'm here with you to talk Strata. We're definitely going to be talking Strata today. If you're coming on in, and I can see a few of you here with me live, feel free to drop me a hello. Let me know in the comments that you are here. Let me know how your 2022 has kicked off. I know for our strata managers, our professionals who are serving owners, corporations, and communities, I know many of you opened your offices this week. I know some of you aren't opening until next week, which I think is awesome. I think it's really important for you, especially with the year that you've had, to have some solid time off, some rejuvenation and restoration. I can see those hellos coming on in now. Cheryl is saying hi. Hey there, Cheryl. Good to see you. I've also got a hello here from Edward. How you doing? Hello, everyone from Edward. And David is here saying, hi, Amanda. David from Neutral Bay. Lovely message to those doing it tough. Thank you very much, David. And thank you for joining us here today. Now, I have started my 2022 off rather slowly, which is a habit that I try to make for myself. As I said, I'm a parent in school holiday mode at the moment. So I try not to plan too much for 2022. And I also try to finish up the year in a similar way. So many people, professionals in particular, lawyers are really bad at this, are running around at the end of a year right before Christmas trying to get everything finished. It seems that January doesn't exist for some of us and for some of our clients, and it's so stressful. I definitely used to do that, but have made a point to stop doing that. And I think I'm not perfect, but I think I had made a pretty good go at it towards the end of last year. I received an email on Christmas Eve. I think it was Christmas Eve at about 6:30 at night from one of my lawyer colleagues, still working on a case, still sending out correspondence pursuant to a client's instructions. And my heart broke, I have to say. I know this particular lawyer. I know this lawyer has a family with a few kids, and to still be working like that on Christmas Eve is sad, I think, but it just shows how burdened many of us are most of the time. And I know strata managers too suffer from this as well, being constantly available to clients. So I think it takes practice to develop and to stick with these systems that you build for yourself. For me, I say that I am not taking on any new clients until February. I generally start letting inquiries. People know that when they start inquiring around November, to say, unfortunately, I can't do anything for you until February. If you can wait until then, absolutely, the team will be in touch then. And I focus on delivering what I have promised for my current clients before the end of the year, so that they're not left waiting and I'm not left working over that Christmas break. If you run your own practice, then definitely that's an option for you. I know for many managers and lawyers who are employed, that's not necessarily an option, but there is always the next year. It is coming. January does exist, and we can certainly do better at taking pressure off ourselves during this time. I was thinking about this process because I had posted about it on LinkedIn, and a few people had asked me about this process of winding down towards the end of the year. And the idea of mindset popped into my mind. And I was thinking about this structure of an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. Now, some of you may have heard about this. I think it was coined by Stephen Covey. And when I read about this, I thought, hey, I have that book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset comes from this book. And I've talked to my friends about this as well, and it really hits home for a lot of people. We really need to operate in that abundance mindset. There is time. There is a tomorrow. There is a January. It doesn't all have to be done now. And if we say no, it's not going to stop coming. Lawyers in particular feel that they must say yes to all the work that comes to them. Otherwise, it's not going to come anymore. Their competitors are going to snap up that client, snap up that big case, and they're going to be left twiddling their thumbs with nothing to do. I say no to most things that come across my desk. I have to. I'm the only lawyer in my practice. I like to keep a tight ship, and I say no to most things. And I can tell you, it keeps coming. It keeps coming. We can absolutely change our mindset to an abundance mindset. And if it's something that is striking a chord with you, definitely check out this book. It's not a new one, late 80s, I think Stephen Covey had first published that book, and there's a few different variants of it. But if you are struggling here at the beginning of 2022, which, as I know so many of us are, and worried about what's to come and feeling that pressure and perhaps that scarcity, whether it's of work, of clients, of good times, of peace, of happiness, see if you can tap into that abundance mindset. It's really going to help. It really helps me for sure. Lots more people coming in. Yeah, we're going to talk about Strata. We're going to get there. Absolutely. Lots more coming in that I want to say hello to. Emiliana is here saying hi from Chester Hill. Good to see you, Emiliana. I'm just going to turn my light up here too. Is that a little better? Am I a little... There we go. I feel like I'm in the dark there. Gradually getting darker here. Jane is here saying greetings. Agree. Lovely message for those doing it tough. Thanks, Amanda. You're welcome, Jane. Sean, hey, how you doing? Happy New Year to you too. And Kaz is here, and she's asking a Strata question. We will get there. Thanks for your support of Strata, Amanda. Can you explain the difference clearly between Capital Works Fund and maintenance plan? Should a good assessor, quantity surveyor, provide both? Interesting question there, Kaz. I will flag that one. Rochelle, who is helping me out in the background, if we have some time, and we should have some time to get to some Q&A, if you like, let's do it. If that's what you guys feel like today, let's do it. Then I'll come back to that one, Kaz. Rochelle might just pop that in my run sheet for me that I have here. Michelle is saying builders put up with the same. Everyone wants their new kitchen before Christmas and the world ends then, apparently. Yes, indeed. I understand. Joe is saying hi. Good to see you. And Cassandra is saying hi from LinkedIn. Always good to have our LinkedIn viewers join us. If you're watching from LinkedIn, we're also going out to Facebook as well. So if you can't see those, the comments that I'm calling out, they're over here on Facebook. Cassandra is saying, welcome to 2022. I love it. Welcome to you too, Cassandra. Thank you for that. And Patricia is here saying hello and Happy New Year. So good to be with you. Back with my peeps. I missed you. I missed you. Can't help it. I'm a Strata nerd. Missed my Friday lives. Missing you all. I am popping back over to just check Rochelle's message. All good. Thank you very much, Rochelle. All right. Now, speaking of scarcity mindset, see, told you to come back to Strata. Rena and I are talking about something along those lines in our podcast episode next week. So we've already recorded our chat. We recorded it recently. It's coming to you next week, but I can give you a little heads up, sneak peek, because you are here. We're talking about strata managers resigning from serving buildings, and a strata manager and an owners corporation agreeing to terminate a strata manager's agency agreement early. And Rena shares with us next week that she has had a couple of clients recently where they have agreed, Rena and the client have agreed, that it's best for each of them to move on and to terminate their agency, Rena's agency agreement early. And Rena explains how she'd felt such a load off her shoulders, that these were buildings either where the relationship just wasn't working out, it wasn't what either side thought it was going to be, or a situation where the building, unfortunately, wasn't following Rena's advice and asking her to do things that legally she wasn't able to do. So she was taking the position, you'll hear me say on the podcast, I think properly, resigning from that building because she wasn't able to serve them in a way that they wanted to be served. And we wondered why in some situations, strata managers insist on hanging on, insist on continuing to serve a building that perhaps doesn't want them there simply because they have an agreement on foot. And I do think that that's an example of that scarcity mindset where professionals think, I must have this client, I must keep this client. If I don't keep this client, there might not be someone there to replace them. And I think that just causes much more trouble for ourselves. Lawyers do this too, absolutely. Much more trouble for ourselves than it's worth, because we're then facing that persistent, consistent burden of working with someone who just doesn't really want to work with us and that perhaps we don't want to work with. But the good thing is that in our strata management agency agreements, there is a provision for mutual termination, or at least there should be if you're using one of the industry approved agreements. And you can, an owners corporation and a strata manager can agree to terminate their agency agreement, terminate the contract early so that the owners corporation can move on. And this discussion that I had with Rena actually prompted me to create a new resource for our members inside the Your Strata Property community. I know so many of you are tuning in here regularly on a Friday Live. I can see some familiar names there who are our members. There is a new resource coming to you, which goes to this point about early termination. It is my template resignation letter that strata managers can issue, and also some really important template motions to go on the agenda of a general meeting, because it is important that we meet the provisions in the New South Wales legislation that require an owners corporation to pass a resolution confirming the termination of a strata manager's agency agreement. So our members will be getting a link to that resource, absolutely free for our members. Maybe later this evening. We've had a little technical difficulty there with our resource. I might actually show you. I have it here in front of me, and I might actually share with you my screen so you can understand our technical difficulty. And if there's any trouble finding that resource, then you can absolutely go and find it with reference to this video. So let me hit the share button here, and I will share this screen with you. Excellent. So where I am here on our website, yourstrataproperty.com.au, these are actually our members' resource library. This is our members' resource library. There's another version of this on the website if you're not a member, where you will see that each of these resources is for sale to you. You can purchase them, but if you're a member, then you get them absolutely for free. So the new resource that's coming out today for our members is a letter templates. So we have these categorized a little further down the page here. We have our meeting templates just there, and we should get to our letter templates. And this is your new resource, Strata Manager's Letter of Resignation and Motions to Terminate for New South Wales members only, otherwise for sale for $97, but absolutely free to our members. Now you can download that template directly by hitting that button. If you wanted to find out more about what's in the template and have a little sneak peek at it, you click on the image and it will take you to this page, and you can read a little bit more about what is in the template and see a little snapshot of it. Now, here's the technical difficulty, members. There used to be a button here under that $0 price, a button here that said download. So I could send you a link to access this resource. And when you're logged in as a member, then you can access the resource, hit download there and get your resource. My download button's disappeared. So we're just trying to fix that. That happened sometime towards the end of last year, and then I can get that resource out to you. But I think we might find a workaround in the meantime for you so we can get that out to you quickly. So that's our member resource for this week. I'm seeing some more questions coming on through. Let me just scroll back up to these comments. Joe is answering a question for Kaz, which is excellent. Might come back to that one so we can look at those together. Thank you, Joe. Jacqueline is, hello, Jacqueline. How are you? Good to see you. Jacqueline appreciates the constructive advice on mindsetting for 2022. Abundance is what we need to look for and recognize. Also appreciate the things you do say yes to. Yes. Happy New Year to you and Michelle. Thank you very much, Jacqueline. Thumbs up there from Kaz. Thank you. And another question coming in from David about baby strollers stored in the common area. The space in our strata plan will fit one stroller. How do we decide which stroller? And someone now wants to store a bike there as well. Oh, there's always something, isn't there, David? Rochelle, let's pop that in our sheet and I will come back around to David's question together with Kaz and Joe there. And Patricia is saying, thank you, Amanda. It will be a welcome resource. Some plans just have to go. Agree with you. And I love that abundance mindset that you have there, Patricia. Thank you for sharing that. All righty. Now, I mentioned in my email and I think on the post here on the page, letting you know what I was going to cover here today, that we had a few questions coming out of our podcast episodes for the last 2 weeks. Episode number 294. That was my first episode for the year, came out in the first week of January. And I was letting you know we have some new legislation or a new regulation in New South Wales has been made. It was made towards the end of December, and many of us missed it because of that Christmas rush. But this is the regulation that requires our New South Wales owners corporations to submit an annual report each year. Now, if you haven't got stuck into episode 294, I do go through the regulation, the new regulation in some detail. So go and have a listen to that, letting you know what your new legal obligations will be in New South Wales from the 30th of June. 30th of June. Yes, someone will tell me if that's right. Didn't write this down. 30th of June, the new legislation commences. And from then on, after each annual general meeting, within 3 months of the 30th of June, if you're a building that has had annual general meetings before, you will need to submit your first annual report. And if you're a new building that has never had an annual general meeting, then within 3 months of your first annual general meeting, you will need to submit an annual report. So I'll continue to keep you updated on how all of that's rolling out in New South Wales, including letting you know the website you need to go to be filling in your annual report. But we did get some questions after that episode. As I anticipated, there would be questions about exactly how this is going to work. From a couple of people, I was asked the question, what about community schemes? Community associations, neighborhood associations, do they need to submit an annual report? What has been made is Strata legislation, amendments to our Strata schemes management regulations. So not legislation that applies to our community schemes. Community schemes do not need to submit an annual report in New South Wales yet. Fair trading has definitely given us a heads up that this will be legislation that will ultimately be rolled out to community associations, community schemes as well. So in the discussion paper that was circulated, and I think I put a link to the discussion paper under the podcast episode, there was a future phase, a future rollout of these requirements, all leading back to the Strata hub, this central hub of information about Strata schemes. It is proposed that eventually there will be community schemes to be submitting information as well, and that people who are interested in finding out information about community schemes will be able to do that through the Strata hub. Which I assume will continue to be called the Strata Hub. So community schemes, we don't have to worry about them yet, but definitely Strata managers be thinking about getting those systems, those processes in place for how you're going to gather the information that's needed in the annual report. That is all set out in the regulation, and I go through that in the podcast episode, and ultimately rolling this out to your community schemes as well. A great question on under the episode. You can, when you visit the episode page on the website, you can comment and ask questions under the episode. And I'm just scrolling through Stephen. It was Stephen who posted the question about strata plans of subdivision. So where we have ongoing development within a strata scheme, and this can be some years down the track, there may be a strata plan of subdivision, and therefore there's two strata plan numbers. And Stephen let me know under the episode that he had lodged his question with New South Wales Fair Trading about whether strata plans of subdivision had a requirement to lodge annual reports. I thought that was a great question, and I have thanked Stephen and asked him to let us know how he goes with that. But I can say on my reading of the regulation, the requirement is for the owner's corporation to lodge their annual report. And generally, even when we have, well, not generally, actually, even when we have strata plans of subdivision, we still only have one owner's corporation, usually operating under that earlier strata plan number. I do understand, however, that where you have a strata plan of subdivision, you may have, or you generally will have, other lots and different lot numbers falling under that strata plan of subdivision. So to be able to answer questions in an online form about how many lots are in a strata plan and what those lots are used for, whether they're utility lots, whether they are residential lots, car space lots, it's going to be interesting when you have strata plans of subdivision to be able to express that information. So I'm not sure. Well, I hope Stephen's not the only one asking that question and the only one bringing that to the attention of New South Wales Fair Trading. And I think it's going to be important to make sure that that online form, I know there's some strata managers out there trialing the process and trialing the online form. I would love to hear from you if this is something that's cropped up, how you report the number of lots when they fall under different strata plans. Craig has just piped in here on LinkedIn. Hey, Craig, nice to see you. On this topic, surely only the head strata plan will need to lodge a return, not each child strata plan. We know of one scheme that has 15 subplans. Yes, I agree with you there, Craig. There would only be one owner's corporation constituted on registration of that first plan, as you call it, the head plan. I like that structuring. But I wonder, technically there will be lots that fall under the other plans and are not therefore part of that head plan. They are part of that child plan. Tricky things to think about. But thank you so much, Stephen, for being onto that really quickly and making that inquiry with New South Wales Fair Trading. Definitely let us know how you go. And a question from Alex. on the website under that episode about the fee payable. I've said it was $3 per lot to pay for your annual report. If there's 100 lots in a scheme, it's a $300 fee. If it's a 2-lot scheme, it's a $6 fee. The idea being that that's the fairest way to apportion the cost. I think that's probably right. Alex was asking the question, is the fee only payable on lodgement of the annual report? What about where there are amendments to the report? You'll hear me in the podcast episode talk about how important it is to keep the annual report updated when your committee members change, when your strata manager changes, your building manager. And Alex has said, does that mean we have to pay the fee? If we've got a very large strata scheme, that's going to be very expensive. And it might be that we're better off paying the fine, running the gauntlet. And I have answered Alex there on the page where I've said that on my reading of the regulation, the fee is only payable when the information is given the first time, when the information is given with the annual report under clause 43. So no fee payable for any updates or any corrections. That's how I read the regulation. It will, of course, be interesting to see how this plays out in practice. So exciting times for those of us here in New South Wales as we build our Strata hub and we collect and deliver that information that's going to be available on the Strata hub. I was quite excited to see that there is a requirement to report the balance of your capital works fund as of the last financial statement. I think that's going to be interesting to watch how our government uses that information to see what the funding position for capital works, future repairs and maintenance is for our buildings across the state. Some capital works funds will be in deficit, as we and as strata managers see, and others will be quite healthy. So that information is not going to be public, and Fair Trading hasn't yet said who's going to be able to access that or what they'll be doing with it. But I think it's a great opportunity to start collecting that data so that there can be decision making based on real data rather than guessing at the position that our buildings are all in. Okay, heading back over to just see who else is coming on in to say hi. Petra is here. Nice to see you, Petra, and good afternoon to you. Thank you again, Craig, for your comment there over on LinkedIn. Any more questions on the annual report process? We can spend a little bit of time today, if we have some, I think we will, to talk a little bit more about annual reports in New South Wales. Just pop your question into the comments there, whether on LinkedIn or Facebook. But our podcast episode this week, episode 295, Work, Health and Safety Basics for Residential Owners Corporations. Bill Kritharis, lawyer, very experienced work health and safety lawyer, and started his career early on in the strata space as a strata lawyer. He may be a name known to those of us who have been around for some time serving our owners corporations. I have been meaning to get Bill on the show for ages. Because I want to learn more. I want to learn more about work health and safety. It is a question, as I say on the episode, I get asked often and I know very little about. So we're lucky to have Bill's expertise when it comes to our work health and safety specific to owners corporations, residential owners corporations. And certainly we have had some comments on the episode and questions on the episode about work health and safety. I am going to share my screen with you for that particular episode, and you can see some of these comments. I think that's important because there's been some answers that have come through in the meantime that I think are going to be helpful, and I'd really like to share with you. So let me share that screen with you. Here's our episode number 295. Rochelle, I believe, has a link to this one as well for anyone who hasn't checked it out yet. So Bill and I spoke about how the work health and safety law applies differently to residential, commercial and mixed use buildings, why Bill has a problem with work health and safety reports. If you've listened to the episode, it's about calling them work health and safety reports. And I really loved the point that he made there, and the important role of the strata manager in guiding their clients when it comes to work health and safety, and lots more there in that episode. In case you don't know, you can get the transcript for podcast episodes. Just click that link there. Everybody is able to get a transcript. Good to share with your committees, with your strata manager. Sometimes there's some technical content on these episodes, I know, and it's good to be able to go back over those. But this is what I wanted to show you. I appreciate that that is small. Should we try and zoom in? Let's try and zoom in here. I know there's a shortcut for this, but I'm not very keyboard driven. So I'm doing this. That's gotten a little bigger. I think that's gotten a bit bigger on your screen there. So Peter says, I may have missed it, but in the discussion about strata and the application of WHS law, I didn't hear any mention of, in the regulation, a person conducting a business or undertaking, persons excluded, excuse me, let me just, yes, sorry, I think subsection 2 Peter is pointing to. I'll just highlight this one here. So Bill told us that residential owners corporations are excluded, specifically excluded from the Act. You can see that in subsection 1. However, subsection 2 does not apply if the strata title body corporate engages any worker as an employee. So quite right, Peter. We didn't cover that off. It's not a question that I asked Bill, and I probably should have. Where an owner's corporation engages a worker as an employee. Now, you guys let me know, but I would think that this may be rare that you would engage somebody as an employee versus a contractor, okay? That's a whole body of law, not even just a podcast episode, a whole body of law in itself. I know many of you engage contractors all the time, independent contractors, but few of you, I would think, actually have employees. However, if you do have an employee, and again, I would love your comments here. If you do have employees, who are they? What are they doing? Then I think Strata Committee, who's posted here under a pseudonym, Strata Committee has the right answer. If you do have an employee, then indeed the Work Health and Safety Act applies, and the owner's corporation is considered a PCBU, a person conducting a business or undertaking. Bill talks us through what that means in the podcast episode and tells us that the responsibility of what the responsibilities of a PCBU are when it comes to assessing risk and addressing risk in the workplace. So yes, if you have an employee, then the Work Health and Safety Act and regulation is then going to apply. I haven't gone to look this up, Strata Committee, but those are the sections of the regulation that have been quoted. And I did see it hasn't come through yet. Rochelle, I think Peter has responded to Strata Committee's post here under the episode, and we can certainly approve that and publish it. Peter has said thank you, and that was his understanding as well. So love to see these discussions going on under our podcast episodes, and great questions where we have not covered everything off necessarily in the episode. I do try to keep the episodes within about 30 minutes. So they're short and sharp for you when you're walking the dog or at the gym. So not always able to cover everything, but that was an important question there from Peter. And definitely if you're engaging workers as employees rather than contractors, you need to be thinking about that. Few questions on that, I think, coming through. Sean has asked here, what about in-house building managers? Yeah, there may definitely be some building managers engaged as employees, particularly, you're right, Sean, in-house. They live on site, residential building managers. I know in my experience, I see most building managers are still engaged as independent contractors and not as employees. So the owner's corporation is paying a contract sum to the building manager to carry out their duties, and the building manager is then from that sum paying their own superannuation, paying their own tax. They're running their own company, running their own business. They're not an employee of the owner's corporation. So if you're not sure whether you've got employees or contractors, and therefore whether the Work Health and Safety Act applies to you, I think it's really important that you go and get some specific advice from a lawyer to clarify that, because these are serious obligations and ones that you should be aware of if you are engaging employees, definitely. Okay. Some more comments here. Oh, Peter's here. Hey, Peter, good to see you. Thank you very much for that comment and for sparking this discussion. Peter's saying there appears to be no definition of employee in the work health and safety legislation. Yes, indeed. They referred to the term worker. And that is why, Peter, we have a body of law, as I said earlier, about what it is that an employee does, who an employee is, what constitutes an employee, as opposed to what constitutes an independent contractor. Lots of cases to be read. Common law is quite well developed in that area. And that is why it's not as simple as simply as giving a definition, a legislative definition there in the Work Health and Safety Act. If you're thinking that you're in that situation where you have an employee, definitely go and have a chat to perhaps first your strata manager, and then get some legal advice to make sure you're across those obligations. Okay, Sean has also posted an earlier comment here about the portal or the Strata hub. Sean was saying, what information is required for the portal? Could you please remind us, and whose responsibility is it to keep it current? Yeah, great question. I thought this might come up, Sean. So I do have a copy of the new regulation here, which I'll just quickly share. I go through this in the podcast episode number 294, but it's good to see here on the screen exactly what it was that I was looking at when I was recording that episode. It's the Strata Schemes Management Amendment Information Regulation 2021. A link to this is under the podcast episode, but if I could trouble you, Rochelle, to perhaps give us the link again here in the comments, that's probably helpful for everybody. Quite short here. This is the instrument that inserts the new clauses into our New South Wales Strata Schemes Management Regulation. Clause 43 is what requires us to give the information annually. There's those dates. My memory did not fail me. It was the 30th of June 2022 that this legislation will commence, and you've got till the 30th of September 2022 to file your annual report. And here it is, Sean, 43A. This is the information required. So I counted these out when I was recording the episode, and I think I got to 20 pieces of information to be provided in the annual report. So I won't go through all of it again now. You can see some of it there on your screen, some more there on the next page. That is the list. It's a long one, but this will be an online form, and it will prompt you with all of these things. It will ask you these questions, and you'll simply go through and answer them. And we're hearing that some of the information will be pre-filled. So once you set out the strata plan number, perhaps, or the building's address, then information that Fair Trading may already have will be pre-filled into the form, which is good. Now, in terms of, Sean, you're asking whose responsibility is it? It is the owners' corporation's responsibility. So the legal entity that is the owners corporation is responsible for submitting the annual report and keeping it up to date. And the penalty, if that doesn't happen, if there is no compliance, is a penalty to the owners corporation. Good question. If you're a strata manager, to be asking whose responsibility is it. I imagine that those buildings that have strata managers will be asking their strata managers to do this for them. You should be looking at your agency agreements, looking at the list of additional services that is in your agency agreement, and is this going to be covered? Can you do this under your agency agreement? And if you can you charge for it? So that's an exercise that I think strata managers should be doing now. Do we have the authority to, or the ability to accept this instruction to do this on behalf of an owners corporation? I think most of you probably do. And importantly, if we're going to be doing it, are we able to charge our clients for it, and what are we going to charge our clients for doing it. And bear in mind that if you don't do it and your client, Owners Corporation, has instructed you to do it, or you get it wrong, then you're going to have a problem, no doubt, with your client, Owners Corporation. You may not have a problem with fair trading because the buck stops with the Owners Corporation. It's their responsibility. But if you cause them to be in default of their legal duty, their legal obligation, then you're going to have to answer to your clients. So that's why I think it is really important for our strata managers to be across this. Great question there, Sean. Thank you for that one. Okay. Emiliana is asking, is that report in Strata Hub accessible to owners of the plan? How do we check the veracity of the report done by the agent? Yes, so I do talk this through in the podcast episode, Emiliana, and it is set out in that document that you've just seen on the screen, and Rochelle's posted the link there for you. Some of the information is accessible to anybody, any member of the public. And some of the information is only accessible by owners in the building. Owners, I believe, I think tenants as well, the strata manager, the building manager, committee members. Some of the information is only accessible by those people. So those people will have to verify their identity to be able to access that information. That'll be an interesting exercise. Fair trading will have to know who the authorized people are, who the owners are, the tenants are, have a copy of the strata roll. Perhaps. So certain information is only available to those people. And then there is certain information that's only available to fair trading and only available to emergency organizations like the police, fire, and ambulance. So I go through that in the podcast episode. Have a listen if you haven't yet, and definitely have a read of that regulation, which also answers that one for you. Sean is saying, place a motion on the AGM and make it the committee's responsibility. Interesting one there, Sean. Yep. Oh, you heard it here first from Sean, perhaps. That may be the way some strata managers deal with that. I just want to check that I haven't missed some other comments that came through earlier. Stuart will do it. Great. I like that name, Stuart. Welcome to Friday Live. Hi, Amanda. Really enjoy listening to your podcasts. Thanks so much for your contribution to the strata sector. Oh, thank you very much. Stuart will do it. Good to hear. Okie dokie. So I do have a couple of events that are coming up in the next month. Actually, these are in February, what I'm going to share with you, and I want to make sure you know about them here first. So I'll give you those details, and then I will, just to give Rochelle the heads up, swing back around to a couple of those questions that were coming through earlier. If you do have a question, this is your chance. Ask a strata lawyer. Pop it here in the comments, and I'm happy to run till 5. We can run till 5. I don't usually run that long when I'm solo, but we've got time to make up for. We've got lots of time to make up for here. Let's do it. So any more questions, pop them in the comments now while I share with you these couple of events coming on up. Haven't announced this yet. This is the first you're hearing of it. I will be running a webinar. The webinar is happening at midday on the 9th of February. That, I believe, is a Wednesday, midday the 9th of February. Pop it in your diaries. I just want you to pop it in your diaries for the moment. A 1-hour webinar, midday the 9th of February. I haven't got a link for you yet. That is coming. But I will be covering the topic of books and records, strata books and records, how to manage them as strata managers in particular, where we may be going wrong due to a misunderstanding of the legislative requirements, how to permit proper access to books and records, and looking at some of the recent cases where strata managers have been put through the ringer a bit because they have misunderstood the effect of our legislation when it comes to keeping books and records and giving access to books and records. So if you've been listening to the podcast, tuning into Friday Live for a while now, you'll know that this is one of my soapbox topics that I love to speak about and to educate strata managers, owners, committee members about proper access to books and records for owners who are entitled to it. And I still see comments posted in our member forum, cases before the tribunal, clients that I act for that are still struggling to get proper access to books and records. So I thought, let's do my bit. Let's run a webinar about books and records. And this also, I must say, credit to some of our members, our new pro members. There's a new level of membership inside the Your Strata property community. You wouldn't have heard me talk about it necessarily yet, but we do have a new level which is called pro membership. And this is mostly strata managers at the moment, a few really active committees and committee members in there as well. And this was a request put in by some of our pro members that they wanted to learn more about books and records. So I will be running that webinar at midday on the 9th of February 2022. It is specifically a webinar for our pro members. It will be free for our pro members. At this stage, there will be a small fee for our other members and then a slightly higher fee for our non-members. So that's all still getting evolved in the background. So I haven't got a link for you yet, but I did want to give you that date, the 9th of February 2022, all about books and records, and to keep an eye on your inbox for the link to register and some more information about what's going to be on the webinar. So on the pro membership, if you haven't heard about that yet, don't panic. You haven't missed too much. It's something that I set up towards the end of last year, and we have our founding pro members in there testing everything out for us. What the pro membership does is allows strata managers to claim CPD points for a lot of the content that they are enjoying inside the membership, including the podcasts and the member calls, and also their work inside the forum. And I'm running this year exclusive pro member webinars, which include webinars on business and marketing skills. So that's exciting. I have been asked for a long time, probably within about a year of starting the podcast, Amanda, will you do some education for strata managers on marketing? How do you do what you do with an online community and with podcasting and with seemingly being everywhere all at the same time? And I've resisted it. I have to be honest with you. I've resisted it for a while. It's not, I know I'm a strata lawyer. Strata is what I love. I'm here to educate about strata. But it's got to a stage where many voices cannot be ignored. And I will be doing with our pro members some exclusive training on business and marketing skills. So if you are a strata manager who has a team, or even if you are a committee and you've got multiple committee members, I'm often asked this about the membership as well, and you all want access. You all want access to the membership, then the pro membership allows that. It allows numerous seats, we call them in tech speak, numerous seats inside a membership without having to go to the expense of buying many, many memberships. So if you're a strata manager with a team and you want access to that pro membership, or you're a committee and you want all your committee members to have access to the membership benefits, then pro is the way to go. So drop me an email if you want to find out more about it. It's not publicly available yet. Drop me an email or just post a comment here under Facebook or on LinkedIn that you'd like to know more about Pro, and I'll be in touch to share some more with you. Awesome. Okay. Oh, look at that. You're prompting me. Sean was saying details of pro member on the YSP website. I'll send you an email. I'll send you an email about that, Sean. They're not yet, not live on there, but I'll definitely email you. And Patricia is saying, I'm so grateful and proud to be a founder member. Indeed. Yes. And we are so grateful and proud to have you, Patricia. Okay. Pamela is here saying, sorry, she's late, but hope you had a great Christmas and New Year. No problem, Pamela. You'll want to catch the first half of this chat definitely on the replay. Finally, the other event that I want to share with you before I head over to those earlier questions is the 17th annual Australian College of Strata Lawyers Conference. I do let you guys know about this conference every year because the quality of it is unmatched. The quality of the content, the education that you get at this conference, that we all get at this conference, is unmatched, I think, anywhere around the country, and I think even around the world. Very high standard we have within the College of Strata Lawyers. And the beauty of the conference, like last year, is that this year it is going to be run entirely online. So super easy to register and to attend and to tune into the conference sessions. I do have for you a link to find out more, and indeed a link to register. And I'm just going to share again this screen with you so you can see where you land when Rochelle gives you the link. ACSL 2022, our 17th annual Strata Law Conference. It is Wednesday the 16th to Friday the 18th of February, and you hit that button to register. But what you might want to do is check out, I think I may have done this earlier, I did, check out the program. See who's speaking and what they are speaking on. His Honour Judge Barlow, QC, speaking about advocacy in consumer tribunals and courts. That's going to be a great one. I'm really looking forward to it. Associate Professor Kathy Sherry talking about the implications of the public-private divide for strata schemes. So this is all online. You can tune in from the comfort of your office, of your home, not just for strata lawyers, not just if you're a lawyer, you need to be a member of the college. You should be a member of the college. If you're a lawyer and you're not a member of the college, please do let me know. We would love to have you as a member. But if you're a strata manager, definitely this content is going to be relevant to you. And committee member, and my highly engaged committee members, I know who you are. Many of you are inside my community. You're going to really love this content as well. So Paul Morton from Lanark Finance is talking about partial redevelopments in strata schemes. Fraud awareness, Jonathan from Macquarie Group. I've heard Jonathan speak before. He's really excellent on that particular topic. Strata management in the digital age. I won't go through the whole program. It is over 3 days. So we've got day 1, day 2, day 3 to have a look at. Yes, I will be there. Yes, I am contributing to a panel session. Love this conference, and I would love to have you join us there. You are all more than welcome. Link to register, and you can see the early bird registration fee if you visit that link as well. Rochelle has popped into our comments here on Facebook. Thank you, Rochelle. Alrighty. I will stop sharing that screen now and just head back to check that I have covered everybody's comments. Excellent. And I have some reminders here from Michelle of Kaz's earlier comment and David's comment, which I'll get stuck into now for you. So Kaz asked earlier, I'll scroll back up and see if I can find it and put it on the screen because it's a goodie. Kaz asked, can you explain the difference clearly between capital works fund and maintenance plan? Should a good assessor, for example, quantity surveyor, provide both? Now, Kaz, I'm going to assume that you are in New South Wales. Let me know if that's wrong. Even if you're not, I'm going to let you know my knowledge from the New South Wales perspective. Capital works fund plan is something that our legislation requires buildings to have a 10-year capital works fund plan. You've mentioned there a maintenance plan. As far as I'm aware, unless we're talking about brand new buildings, as far as I'm aware, there's not a legal requirement to have a maintenance plan, but it might be something that your building decides is a good idea. Sounds like a good idea to me. I do understand, I do remember that Joe has answered part of this question for you here. Thank you, Joe. Hi, Kaz. A licensed builder or a quantity surveyor, QS, should be used for a 10-year capital works fund plan. They need to be done every 5 years. I think it's a review every 5 years or an update every 5 years, is it, Joe? I won't go trawling through the legislation. Joe said, I do them for a living. Happy to help. Awesome. Good to know, Joe. I do know, Kaz, some buildings do have a quantity surveyor do their capital works fund plan. I think that's great. I think that's very thorough, and you're going to get a good, solid, reliable plan if you have a quantity surveyor do it. Expensive process, however. You're going to find that that's much more expensive than having the plan done by a contractor who simply does these plans. Maybe they're an engineer, they have some experience, maybe they're a licensed builder. A licensed builder, as Joe puts in his comment there, may also cost a little bit more than your standard plans. I've definitely seen some pretty simple, straightforward, cheap capital works fund plans done by people who are not licensed builders and not quantity surveyors, and I don't think that they're all that helpful. So you don't have to, legally, you don't have to have the plans done by those professionals, but if you want to, I can't see that being a bad thing. Capital works fund plan required by the legislation. Maintenance plan, I'm not quite sure what you're thinking there, but that's something different or additional to your capital works fund plan. And the capital works fund plan should set out a schedule of what your levies should be over the next 10 years to fund the capital work that is recommended in the capital works fund plan, and that will include maintenance. It does include maintenance work, and it costs that work and sets out an estimate and says by 2025 your levies for the capital works fund plan should be in this particular amount. So the building can then track their progress over the years. Let me correct that. Not so much your levies, but the balance of your capital works fund plan should be at this amount at this particular point in time. So the building can track how they're progressing towards that goal. Really helpful if they're done properly and if they're followed. So many of them are just not followed, and that's a real problem. And you get to that 2025 and you're supposed to have 500,000 in the plan, in the fund for your lift replacement, and it ain't there, which is disappointing and tricky for those owners who then have to fund that expense. I'll just check back down if there are some more comments here about funds. I think there are. Jane is saying WA. Oh, Jane's disappeared. No, here she is. WA has a guide to making a capital works fund. It's quite useful when doing one in New South Wales. Awesome, Jane. If you know where that is it part of your SCA or Landgate perhaps in WA? If you could let me know or drop a link here for us, if that's going to be useful for those of us over here, that would be great to tap into that resource. Thank you. Patricia's asking as well. Yep, excellent. Okay, David's question. I will head back up to David's question. Another great question. David's asking, what do we do about baby strollers stored in the common area? The space in our strata plan will fit one. How do we decide which one? And someone now wants to store a bike there as well. Yeah, really interesting situation, David. Not uncommon, I don't think. I've certainly lived in and owned in those buildings, often the red brick walk-ups that have that limited storage under the stairs, perhaps in the front foyer. And they do tend to collect items like baby strollers and kids' bikes and other outdoor equipment. One option to take is simply to say no storage in these areas. A, it's unsightly. B, not everybody is able to make use of it because it soon fills up, and it's difficult then for a system to be put in place to work out who gets the storage. And when you have baby strollers, families, these are families that want to rely on having, I imagine, that access confirmed for them and know that it's always going to be there when they get home from their visit to the park. So I think it would be hard to have a process of first in, best dressed, for example. If the space is available, you take it, and if it's not, then you can't. There's only room for one. Could be an approach, but I think that may be frustrating for your families who want to be able to rely on it. Is it possible that someone would want to license the area to pay for use of that area, and for the owners corporation to then allow the use of that area to someone who's willing to pay, or someone who's willing to pay the highest amount? It is legal for an owners corporation to license an area of its common property for the exclusive use of a particular owner for a particular purpose. You'd want to have either a license agreement drawn up, if it's an arrangement between the owners corporation and that particular owner, or a bylaw put in place, a common property rights bylaw, giving the owner of that lot, whoever they may be, from time to time, the right to use that area. Of course, then you're probably getting lawyers involved to draw up those documents for you, and things start to become a little bit expensive. But if it's a valuable spot and there's a family or two who are keen to use it, that could be a commercially reasonable, arm's length perhaps, approach to solving the problem. and making it very clear to others that that's the arrangement as well. If it is an area used for the exclusive use of a particular owner for a particular purpose, or a certain resident for a certain purpose, that will need to be made express so that other people walking past know that it's not a free-for-all, and know that this is not an area that they can then start to put their items in as well. If it's possible to enclose the area, to have it accessible by a key, if it can be locked by the owner, made look a little bit more tidy when it's in use, then that could be an idea as well. But if it's not lockable and it's visible and it's hard to make it appear tidy, you may have some difficulties continuing to allow that use, whether it's on a legal licensed basis or whether it's a first in best dressed basis. Let me know what you think of some of those ideas. And if anybody else has some ideas for David dealing with that issue, please do post your comments here, whether you're watching live or you're watching back on the replay. I'll keep an eye on those comments and come back around to add my 2 cents as well as it fits in. Nice. I like these random questions. Not so random, strata related, but unexpected questions about how we can all live more comfortably, sensitively, in our communities. Thank you for bringing those to the table. And look at that. It has rolled around to 5 o'clock. Time flies when you're having fun. It has been so good to see you all. So many familiar names, regulars, and also some newbies as well, which is great for the start of 2022. I have very much enjoyed my chat with you this afternoon. I'm having a little giggle because Bill and Ben, hey, how you doing, Bill and Ben, has said 2 cents rounds down to nothing these days. Up it to 5 cents. That is my 5 cents. That is my 5 cents, everybody, for you all on this Friday afternoon. Please do enjoy your weekend as best you can, whether you are recuperating, whether you are taking that Nurofen and Panadol and waiting out your 7 days, or whether you are in isolation, or whether you're out enjoying the world as you can do. Have a great time of it. And I will look forward to seeing you here on a Friday Live again soon, and having you join me at our upcoming events that I have shared with you today. I think that's it. Thank you for your hellos and goodbyes. Enjoy your evening, everybody. Bye-bye.